Welcome back to Game Talk 24/7. I'm your host, Josh Cunningham. Before we get to the video, please don't forget to hit the subscribe button down below and like the video. It really means a lot. It really helps out the channel, and I appreciate it more than you know. Also, don't be afraid to comment down below. Without further ado, let's talk sports. Hey guys, welcome back to Game Talk 24/7. Today, as I'm recording this video, is Tuesday, November 11th at 5 p.m. And boy, did we have a crazy weekend of college football and a crazy first week of college basketball. But first, let's talk about college football. In Indiana and Penn State, I did not see that coming. I did not expect that game to be close whatsoever. I expected Indiana to blow out Penn State. And then instead, Penn State said, we still have talent. Like you said, Josh, in your last video, we still have talent. So we're going to show some of that talent and try and take this game from Penn State. Penn State. Penn State said we're going to try and take this game from Indiana, and we're going to try and crush their hopes and dreams. And instead, Indiana said, hey, Penn State, we'll give you hopes, we'll give you dreams, and then we'll take them from you and crush you in the process. In that final minute, with that crazy touchdown catch by Omar Cooper. I mean, oh my gosh. As he catches the ball, he is getting hit out of bounds by the defender. The defender's trying to carry him out of bounds, and he looks down and instinctively gets that toe barely inside the end zone. I mean, that is one of the best catches that we're going to see all year long, and that has a chance to compete for catch of the year. But before, let's just say Indiana won 27-24 with a 2-minute drive to win the game. I don't even know if it was a full 2 minutes, but it was a game time money drive in the final minutes of the game, and Indiana stormed down the field and said, no, we're going to control our destiny to that Big Ten championship. We're not letting you take this one from us. We got things taken from us last year. We're not letting it happen again this year. And that's exactly what they did. Led by Fernando Mendoza, he threw for 218 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. And they ran for 108 yards on the ground with 2 touchdowns. And then Penn State, led by Ethan Gruckmeyer, threw for 219 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, ran for 117 yards on the ground, and 2 touchdowns, all by Nick Singleton. So, again, 27-24. Going into that game, no one expected it. Everyone thought Penn State's going to get blown out. Indiana's this, they're that. Indiana's the best team in the country, or the second best team in the country, depending on who you say, between them and Ohio State. Personally, I have Ohio State as the best team in the country, but some people will say Indiana's the best team in the country. That's a topic for a different day. And then, all of a sudden, Penn State, hey, I know we're bad and all. I know we have a lot of losses, but we still have a lot of talent, so what about us? We might not make the playoff, but can't we play spoiler? Can't we upset someone's party? Can't we be a party crasher, a wedding crasher? And Indiana said, nah, dog, you're getting bounced by the bouncer. And they got bounced right out of that game in the final seconds with that crazy, crazy catch by Omar Cooper. I am just baffled by how that game won, by how Indiana won that game and how that game ended. I mean, I did not see Indiana coming back and winning that game. Once Penn State took that lead, I thought this game's over. Penn State's going to win. They're going to be just fine. And Indiana's going to kind of just, fall down in a game where that they should have won against a team that had something to prove, not only to the fans, but not only to the fan base and their fans, but themselves. And, Indiana said, no, we have things to prove too to our fan base and to ourselves, and we're going to do that right here, right now. And that's exactly what they did. Now, does that mean Penn State's a good team? No. Penn State's not a bad team. They've got a lot of talent, but as you can tell throughout their season, there's been issues with their defense. There's been issues with their offense. And while their defense played good at certain points in this game, as you can see at certain moments, it also didn't. But also, Indiana's played phenomenal this year, and they've been able to take games away from teams and just keep teams on their toes and make it almost impossible for you to see them losing and not being in the Big Ten championship. I mean, them beating Oregon, beating Penn State, both on the road, is impressive. I don't care how bad Penn State is. That's still impressive because that's still a tough environment. Oregon's a solid team. Indiana won on the road there too. So Indiana's just saying, hey, we're starting to put our name in the hats a little bit more often. Indiana may be the second most losingest team in college football history, just above Penn State. They were the number one losingest team in college football history, the most losingest team in college football history until November of 2025, so until this month happened, they were the most losing team in college football history. Now they're the second most losing college football program in college football history. But guess what? The Kurt Signetti era looks bright, and it looks like they're just going to keep moving that train along the tracks and keep inching forward and getting better and better. The question is, will Indiana be able to survive against the big dogs in the Big Ten championship like Ohio State or in the best SEC teams in the college football playoff? And we'll find that out this year. Indiana's next game, they travel back home to play Wisconsin, who just upset Washington in a very low-scoring game, 13-10. But they travel to play Wisconsin. I expect Indiana to win that one. But as we know, expectations don't always get met. It's college football. Crazy things can happen. Anything can happen. Another good game that we had this weekend was, well, it might not have been a good game, but it had the number one team in the country, Ohio State at Purdue. And Ohio State won by a score of 34-10 on the backs of Purdue scoring a touchdown in the final couple minutes of the game when Ohio State put in their third string and second string players, their backup defense. They started putting their backup defense, backup offense a little bit. But they mostly put in their backup defense, and their backup defense gave up that one touchdown. So if you don't count that one touchdown, it'd be 34-3. But guess what? That touchdown still counts in the scorebooks. So we're going to count it. But they won, and led by Julian Sayin, who threw for 27 for 33 for 303 yards, one touchdown, one interception. And they got 170 yards on the ground, led by Bo Jackson, and then 2 touchdowns by C.J. Donaldson, 1 rushing touchdown by Lincoln Kienholz, and a little bit of a nice package that Ohio State had with their backup quarterback that is a little bit more mobile and a little more athletic than Julian Sayin. And then Jeremiah Smith had 10 receptions for 137 yards and 1 touchdown. Now, there was no Cardinal Tate in this game. He was out for a precautionary. He said something was a little tight before the game, and so he sat out for precautionary reasons. He could have played. He was suited up if they needed him, but they didn't need him. They were playing Purdue, and so they went on. And Purdue fans, well, they're looking more forward to the college basketball season, even though Trey Kaufman-Ren's injured right now and not playing. They can't wait to get him back, but they're looking more forward to the college basketball season because college football has not been treating them nicely. Ohio State goes on to play next. At home. So we travel back home and we play UCLA next. And so, again, I expect Ohio State to beat UCLA handily. And again, I think it's going to be Indiana and Ohio State in the Big Ten championship. That's what it's looking like it's going to be right now. Another Big Ten game that we had that ended on a game-winning drive, another money drive, Oregon versus Iowa. So Oregon was at Iowa, and they were down 15-16 going into the final minutes of the game. And Oregon kicked a game-winning field goal to win it 18-16 against Iowa. This game was led by 2 tough defenses. Iowa, known for their defense, you're going to know they're going to have a tough defense. They're going to play good, and their defense is always going to get stops. Oregon, their defense showed up against an Iowa offense that's always been kind of stagnant and not been able to outscore opponents by a lot. And so their defense showed up against an opponent that has been having a struggling offense. And so when your defense always shows up against those types of opponents, it's nice to see that they can at least do their job against opponents that they're supposed to do their job against. Now it's just about doing that against other teams like Ohio State or Indiana. And because they've never struggled with smaller teams. But Dante Moore threw for 112 yards, 0 touchdowns, 1 interception. And Oregon's only touchdown actually came offensively rushing on the ground by Hill Jr. And so he scored their only rushing touchdown and their only offensive touchdown of the game. It was a struggle offensively. I mean, Gronowski, not Gronkowski. It's not Rob. It's Mark Gronowski threw for 138 yards and 1 touchdown, and then he rushed for also a touchdown, and they ran for 101 yards. Now Oregon ran for 261 total yards, and threw for 112 yards, and so they went for over 360 yards offensively. They just couldn't put the ball in the end zone. They were kicking field goals mostly, and then Iowa, and they were doing the opposite. They were scoring touchdowns. And so it was a very like minuscule offensive game. It wasn't like anything I was expecting. I was expecting Oregon to kind of blow out Iowa, but I also knew Iowa's a solid team. They're a decent team. They got a tough defense, and that was gonna be a tough game for Oregon to win, especially because it was at Iowa. But nonetheless, that game was still a good game to watch, especially if you like watching hard-nosed defenses stand up and just punch each other in the face like that game after game. And so that was a good game. Oregon, they scraped by the skin of their teeth, winning on a game-winning field goal, 18-6. Oregon has to play next. They have to play versus Minnesota. They got Minnesota next, so they got an easier one before then they go and they play USC at home. So at Oregon should be helpful, but USC's a solid team also, just like Iowa. It's gonna be tough. Again, next we had another crazy game in college football. Give me 1 second here. We had another crazy game in college football. You had BYU going to Lubbock to play Texas Tech. And Texas Tech said, nah, you don't come into our house and win. They beat BYU with a score of 29-7. They defended the crib. They said, you don't come into our house and win. Texas Tech won by a score of 29-7. And this was a 7-8 matchup for the college football playoff. So right now they're both inside the college football playoff rankings at 7-8. And so the question is, did Texas Tech knock BYU out of the college football playoff, or did they just switch spots? Because BYU didn't look competitive in that game. Texas Tech whooped them. And so right now you have kind of just like a competition for the top of the Big 12 championship. For instance, BYU and Cincinnati are arguably maybe competing for that final spot in the Big 12 championship with Texas Tech. So the question is, who's going to finally get there and secure themselves the Big 12 championship against each other? Because you could see Texas Tech versus BYU again, or you could see Texas Tech versus Cincinnati. We don't know. It's all crazy. Anything could happen technically. Texas Tech could somehow lose to teams they shouldn't lose and not make the Big 12 championship. I don't see that happening, but anything could happen in college football. But no, Texas Tech was led by Baron Morton, who threw for 219 yards and 1 touchdown. Sorry if I butchered the name. And then Cameron Dickey, who ran for 121 yards and 1 touchdown. And BYU was led by Bear Bachmeier, who threw for 188 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception. So while the game wasn't great for BYU, because they only rushed for 67 yards, threw for 188 yards, offensively they weren't looking great, they're still a solid team. It's tough to go on the road and play in Lubbock, Texas, and beat Texas Tech. It's tough. Texas Tech looks like a really good team. They look like a really good team that's going to win the Big 12 and be the Big 12's automatic bid in the college football playoff. That's a tough game for BYU. BYU goes to play next. Like I said, they play Cincinnati in 2 weeks. They play at TCU next. They play at home against TCU next. Then they travel to play Cincinnati in the next 2 games. So they play TCU, then Cincinnati. And Texas Tech, again, sits at the top right now. They go to of the Big 12. They go to play at home again against UCF. And then they got their final game at West Virginia on the road. So, again, Texas Tech just kind of dismantled BYU as a whole in that game. And so the question is, can BYU somehow get their mojo back and find their way back into the college football playoff? I don't think they're going to be out of it. I think they're still going to be in it, but they're going to have to do some work. They're going to have to get to work, beat Cincinnati, compete in that Big 12 championship. They don't have to win the Big 12 championship, but at least compete and have only 2 losses, and I think they could get in. I think they could get in. You also had Texas A&M play at Missouri. Texas A&M won with a score of 38-17. Missouri was the number 22 team in the country. Texas A&M was the number 3 team in the country. And Texas A&M said, you know what? We got work to do. We're going to work today. And that's exactly what they did. They went to work and they won 38-17, putting it to Missouri on the road at Missouri, the number 22 team in the country. And so, is Texas Tech going to win the SEC? I don't know. We'll find out. They still got to play Texas. It's not just handed to them. They still got to play Texas before they even get to the SEC championship. And then in the SEC championship, they have to play someone like Alabama, Georgia, someone who, it depends on who gets in there finally. It's probably going to be Alabama and Texas A&M, and they have to play Alabama, and Alabama's look good, except Alabama only won against LSU 20-9 this week, but we'll talk about that in a couple minutes. And so it's just, again, Texas A&M, they look good. They're undefeated still, led by Marcel Reed, who threw for 221 yards, 2 touchdowns, and then Reuben Owens, who ran for 102 yards on the ground and 2 touchdowns. As a team, they ran for 243 yards on the ground. Can Texas A&M finally get it done? And I say finally because they've had good seasons before. They've been to this point before. But then, as they go to bite the next side of the apple falls from their hand into a pile of mud, and they don't want to eat it anymore, and they just fall off. They've been to this point before many times, and then all of a sudden they just drop off a cliff. And something happens and they drop off a cliff. So the question is, can Texas A&M finally turn that corner and do it for the first time in a long time? Another notable game, like I said, you had Alabama at LSU. Alabama won with a score of 20-9. It was a little surprising that LSU they got a lot of talent. I was so surprised that Alabama only scored 20 points with how their offense has been going. Now, the run game has been abysmal. They have not been able to run the ball well whatsoever this whole season. But with Ty Simpson and everyone they have, and Ryan Williams in the wide receiver room, they have been throwing the ball really well downfield and scoring through the air really well. So I was a little surprised when the game was 29-10. You also had Georgia beating Mississippi State 41-21. Georgia said, hey, Josh, you said our offense is a little inconsistent. Well, we'll show you some consistency and we'll score 41 points. Yeah, after only scoring 24 against Florida 2 weeks ago, Georgia decided they're going to score 41 this week against a Mississippi State team who is better than Florida. They might not have more talent than Florida, but they're better than Florida as of this year record-wise. And so it was just like, hey, Georgia showed up. They did Georgia things. They've been inconsistent on offense and defense all season long, but they have the best coach in all of college football right now, Kirby Smart. And so Georgia, they've looked good and not good at times. So the question is, what's going to happen? Now, Georgia's not a team you want to see in the college football playoff because they're a scary good team. I don't care what they've been doing. They can always figure it out and find it because, again, they have one of the best coaches and coaching staffs in all of college football. And so Georgia's a scary team you don't want to play. But the question is, how will Georgia play on that any given day? We don't 100% know. Next, you also have, let's get to the ACC real quick. Man, the top of the ACC, who is it? Well, it was Virginia. And it was Louisville. And it still might be Virginia and Louisville. But man, that ACC opened up real quick. Virginia playing Wake Forest lost 16-9. 16-9 against Wake Forest. Virginia was looking to be the only bid and be the only automatic bid and be the winner of the ACC championship to the college football playoff, and they lose 16-9 to Wake Forest. Man, oh man, did I not see that coming. And then Louisville loses to California 29-26 in overtime. Man, are those two crazy losses that no one saw coming this week? Because I know I definitely didn't see coming. I didn't see Virginia losing, and I definitely didn't see Louisville losing. And those were two of the top teams in the ACC. And now Virginia's still a top team in the ACC. They said second in the rankings, only behind Georgia Tech. So right now it's Virginia and Georgia Tech, then Pitt, then SMU, then Duke, then Louisville, then Miami. So that top of the ACC is wide open now because Wake Forest and Cal both showed anyone can lose on any given day in college football, especially in the ACC. Anyone can lose on any given day. And so the question is, who's going to be competing in that ACC championship? And who's going to be their automatic bid? And are they going to be even able to get more than one team in? Probably not. They're probably only getting one team in. And man, their conference championship is like a game of guess who. Because you're going to be guessing who's going to be in right now. We won't know, though, because we still got 3 games left to play. And as Virginia showed against Wake Forest and Louisville showed against Cal, anybody can lose on any given day. You also have Miami finally getting another win. The win come after 2 losses in a row. They beat Syracuse with a score of 38-10. Is Miami going to be one of those teams in the ACC championship? As of right now, no. But again, it's the ACC. We don't know. It's college football. We don't know. Is Miami going to try and find their way back into the college football playoff? I don't know. With the 2 losses they have, it's kind of tough. But there might be a slight sliver of hope, especially if they can make it into the ACC Championship. But with 2 losses in the ACC, as of right now, it's not looking like they're going to make it in the ACC Championship. But again, there's some dominoes that could fall and could go Miami's way. Now, it's not very likely, but there's a possibility. 1% is not 0%. 0.5% ain't 0%. So it's possible. But will it happen? I do not know. You also had Notre Dame, who is firmly sitting in the college football playoff race right now. They just need to win out and hope nothing crazy happens above them and ahead of them. Above them and below them, sorry. Because, well, they're looking in. They just beat Navy 49-10. 49-10. Some other notable games that happened. Again, I talked about you had Washington, Wisconsin. Wisconsin won 13-10. You had Vanderbilt and Auburn. Vanderbilt won 45-38. And so on. Ole Miss beat Citadel 49-0. And so on and so on. And so with with everything in college football going on, some crazy things have happened. Texas was on a bye week. And boy, they might be sitting in the college football playoff, in a college football playoff spot right now after BYU lost to Texas Tech. They were sitting just outside, the first team out. They might be the last team in now with Texas Tech beating BYU. It depends on what the college football playoff committee again does tonight on Tuesday, November 11th. Does tonight when they release their college football playoff rankings again at 7 p.m. on ESPN. But who knows? Texas may be in it. Texas got a tough game this week. They got to play Georgia. They got to go and play Georgia at Georgia. That ain't going to be easy. But guess what? Anything's possible in college football. I expect Georgia to win because it's tough to win at Georgia. But if Texas Tech wants to stay alive, if they want to be running for their lives, not letting the monster chase them down, they got to beat Georgia because that's the only way they have a chance of making the college football playoff. They got to beat Georgia. They got to beat Texas A&M. They got to win their games. They got to do their job. And that starts with beating Georgia at Georgia. Now, is that easy? No. Is it possible? Yeah, maybe. Just a little bit. Again, 1% ain't no percent. 50% ain't no percent. But it's going to be tough, especially with how Georgia looked against Mississippi State as a whole. It's going to be tough, though, for Texas. That's a tough game. That's an unfortunate game that they'll have to play. And so then you also have Notre Dame going to play. Notre Dame goes to play Pitt, which, again, has no implications on the ACC championship because Pitt's in the ACC, Notre Dame ain't. So this game has no implications to the ACC championship, and Pitt only has 1 loss in the ACC championship. So what's going to happen there? We'll find out there. Virginia, as I said before, actually I didn't say this. They go play at Duke now. So 2 teams that both have 1 loss in the ACC are playing against each other this weekend at Duke. This could determine which of those 2 teams might have a chance of making in the ACC championship and having a spot in the college football playoff. And after I saw against Wake Forest, man, I don't know, because either team could win that game to me. Again, as I said before, you have Georgia playing Texas. You have Alabama playing Oklahoma. That's a tough game for Oklahoma because Oklahoma has to travel to Alabama and play Alabama. It's a tough game. But if Oklahoma wants a chance of making the college football playoff and wants a chance of sneaking in there with Texas, they got to beat this Alabama team. And Alabama's shown that there's ways you can beat them. It's not a lot, but there's ways. And Oklahoma's shown that, well, our offense ain't that good. It ain't that consistent. Our defense is phenomenal under Brent Venables, who's calling the defense again. And they have shown that, hey, we're going to fight. We're going to work hard. We're going to beat the crap out of you. We're going to try and score. And we're going to try and outscore you. We're going to try and win. And will Oklahoma beat Alabama? I think that's less likely in Texas being Georgia at this point in the season with how Alabama's been looking. But, again, anything's possible. It's college football. Oklahoma's fighting for their lives right now. So, they might be able to do it. They might. You never know. It's like the last animal getting into the watering hole, you know? Like a tiger fighting at the water. Tigers fighting to get to the watering hole, you know? You don't want to be the last one because all the water's going to be gone. Well, Oklahoma doesn't want to be the last one at the table because if they are, they're out of the college football playoffs. So they got to fight their way in. And this is a game that they got to fight their way in through. Because after that, if Oklahoma fights their way in here, their schedule gets a little bit easier because they're not playing Alabama. They only have to play Missouri. So they got to fight their way in. They got to beat Alabama and then beat Missouri. And then they got to beat LSU, which those last two games are a lot easier than this Alabama game. And Texas A&M plays South Carolina. I expect Texas A&M to win that game. So, again, we got a decent week of college football coming up this weekend. After we just had a crazy weekend in college football. Indiana almost losing to Penn State. Oregon almost losing to Iowa. Virginia and Louisville both losing to Wake Forest and Cal. So many things can happen in college football. And so, while this might not be a crazy week of college football, it just may be. Because madness happens wherever college sports go. Now, without further ado, let's talk about week 1 of college basketball. We had week 1, day 1 last week on November 3rd, and boy, was that exciting. We had Arizona and Florida kicking us off in a neutral site game. Arizona won with a score of 93-87, led by no other than freshman sensation, Koa Pete. Boy, did I not think Koa Pete was going to drop 30 points in that first game. I knew Koa Pete was good, but I did not expect him to drop 30 points in game 1 of the season. I thought maybe 15, you know. It might take him some time to get to 30, you know, 20, all that. Nope, he said, I'm doing it right out of the bat. I'm dropping 30 points. And while, again, Arizona won on the backs of Koa Pete and then also Jaden Bradley, who had 27 points. The other 5-star freshman for Arizona, Braden Burries, he didn't have a great game. He had a little bit of foul trouble. He actually fouled out of the game, but he had a little bit of foul trouble here and there. But Jaden Bradley and Koa Pete said, hey, we can lead this team to a victory. Florida was led by none other than Thomas Hoff, who was not what you expect. You would expect Alex Condon to be the leader because he's that dude. He's that guy. He's one of the best backcourt players in all of college basketball. But no, Thomas Hoff led with 27 points. And Florida, their backcourt just kind of looked a little discombobulated by Koa Pete, especially Alex Condon when going against Koa Pete. They have a really good backcourt. Like, don't get me wrong, their backcourt's good. But Koa Pete kind of exposed them with a little bit of physicality and just a little bit of inside play. Koa Pete didn't take a three. He just worked them inside, did a little boom, boom, shimmy, shimmy, shake, shake, and said, whoo. A little boom, boom, shimmy, shimmy, shake, shake, and whoo. Just doing twos after twos after twos. Back to the rim, putting hustle, hard work, effort, just, backing people down. Now, another thing for Florida, their guards. They didn't look great. Xavier Lee had 14 points, but he also shot 29% from the field and 27% from the three. And Boogie Flan only had 9 points, shooting 33% from the field, 0% from three. Those two starting guards are not look great. And those are the guards you have replacing Elijah Martin, Will Richard, and the one and only Walter Clayton Jr. Those are the guards you have replacing them. And one thing I thought before the season was they're not going to be able to replace Elijah Martin, Will Richard, and Walter Clayton Jr. Not because it's hard to find good guards, but because Walter Clayton Jr. is so good. Like, he was so good last year in college basketball. It's hard to replace that. You can't really replace that. You can't expect Xavier Lee or Boogie Flan to come in and replace that, especially right away. It's going to take time. But also, again, you can't replace that scoring the way Walter Clayton did. He put the team on his back in moments in March Madness, and even before March. He put the team on his back and led them to wins after wins after wins. And so it's hard to replace someone like that, someone with the skill set and talent that Walter Clayton Jr. had. And Florida's backcourt showed that. I might have said their front court struggled. Front court backcourt struggle. I meant front court. I was talking about Thomas Hoff, Alex Condon. I meant front court. That's on me. But their backcourt, like I said, struggled too. And again, it's going to take time for Florida to look like what Florida looked like last year when it comes to efficiency as a team as a whole. But I don't think Florida's ever going to be as good as they were last year because I don't think their guards will play the way Elijah Martin, Will Richard, even Denzel Aberdeen, who's now at Kentucky, and Walter Clayton Jr. all played together. I'm not saying they're not going to be good, but I just don't know if those guards can do what the guards last year did. And I don't know if their backcourt can do what their backcourt last year did. Their front court's got to step it up. Their front court looked a little weak in that first game, just kind of getting bullied by Koa Pete. And so Florida's got some things to improve on. Now, they're not bad. They're still a really good team. They're still really solid. It was also only week 1 of the season. They just didn't look great against Arizona in game 1 when it comes to their front court and how their front court would have played. And that's not what you expected because you expected their front court to play better in game 1 than their back court, which it did play better than their back court, but you expected them as a whole to play better because of the experience they have. But you also expected their front court to play better because how we saw their front court play in March, they made some key stops and some key points in certain moments, and they helped lead Florida to that victory. But remember, Florida didn't win because of that front court last year. They won because of Walter Clayton Jr. in that backcourt, and Walter Clayton Jr. putting the team on his back and just making shot after shot. Shot after shot after shot in tough moments. That's when they won. They didn't win because of the front court. They won because of the backcourt. The front court's solid. It's really good. But maybe, just maybe, the front court's not the best in college basketball yet. It can be. They have the potential to get there, but it might not be there yet. That was only week 1 of college basketball. Game 1, there's still plenty of basketball left to play. Florida will be just fine. They're still going to be a solid team. Another player for Arizona that also did good was Ivan Karchenkov. Did I read that right? Yeah, Ivan Karchenkov, who had 12 points. He's an international player for Arizona. He did really good in his first game with Arizona. Also, man, that name's a tongue twister. Ivan Karchenkov. He did really good in his first game against Arizona. Another game that opened us and headlined us on opening night was BYU BYU playing Villanova on a neutral site. And boy, it was in the same place as Florida and Arizona, just right after the game. And boy, was that game good. Villanova put more of a fight than I thought, but BYU ended up winning 71-66, led by A.J. DeBonsa, who had 21 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists, and then they also had supporting cast of Richie Saunders, 15 points, Rob Wright, 3rd, 14 points, and then Keba Keita, 8 points, only 8 points, but he had 7 rebounds, 3 blocks, 1 steal. Keba Keita was so good defensively. Again, he just disrupted Villanova and what they were trying to do. I mean, Keba Keita worked hard, hustled. He might not be the biggest big, but he said, block. He made plays happen. He made things happen. And he made it tough down low in the paint on a smaller Villanova team. But he also worked hard on the outside to get on the outside when he had to guard someone on the outside. He also worked hard getting offensive rebounds, getting defensive rebounds, pushing the ball up the court, throwing up, looking ahead for his team, running up the court. Keba Keita, while he might not have been a star offensively wise with points, he is a physical beast. He is a dog, and as you'd say, he didn't back down from nothing. And he came to play, and he looked really good. He carried that lunch pail to work with him. He said, I'm going to work today. I'm carrying my lunch pail, and it's coming home empty because I ate. He got to work. He did his thing. Boy, was Keba Keita impressive. For Villanova, they were led by Bryce Lindsey, who had 22 points, and Chris Jeffrey, who had 11 points. Bryce Lindsey can shoot the cover off a basketball. He went 5 of 9 from 3. And boy, when I'm watching that game, he's hitting threes that I couldn't believe he hit. Like, he's keeping Villanova in this game, and he gave them the lead at one point. He's just keeping them in the game, Oh, we got the lead now. And then all of a sudden, once Villanova got the lead, Keba Keita woke up, and he said, I've been asleep for like 2 minutes, but I'm back. And Keba Keita, again, stuffed them defensively. As a whole, BYU stuffed them defensively, and they got out to that lead, took it back, got out to a lead, and won eventually 71-66. BYU looks like a solid team. I mean, Richie Saunders scoring 15 points. While he might not have been the Richie Saunders that he was last year, at least at the end of the season, so far in game one, he still has the ability to get there. We know that. Rob Wright looked really good in his first game with BYU. Now, while Rob Wright only had 1 assist, he still looked really good as the point guard for BYU, leading BYU at the helm of their backcourt. And then AJ DeBonsa scoring 21 points in his first game in college basketball. AJ DeBonsa is AJ DeBonsa. He's phenomenal. He looks fluid when he has the basketball in his hands. He's not just tall and lengthy. He can move. He looks fluid. He's got a little wackiness to his game when he moves, like a little shimmy that he can do sometimes with the ball. He with his shoulders while dribbling to kind of throw the defender off and then blow by him or pull up for mid-range. He's good. AJ DeBonsa's good. Another game we had was Tuesday. Duke at Texas. Not a lot from that game. Duke won 75-60. Cameron Boozer struggled in the first half, but then came out and did really great in the second half. He finished the game with 15 points. Duke was led by Isaiah Evans, who had 23 points and went 4 of 8 from 3. He can also shoot the cover off the ball. We saw that last year in moments, and he showed that again this year in the first game of the season against Texas. Duke looked really good. They looked really good offensively and defensively. Again, they won 75-60 against Texas. Then, let's get to the game we had last Friday. North Carolina at Kansas. North Carolina won 87-74. And they were down at halftime 37-29. So they were down by 8 points at halftime. And they came back and won 87-74. They came back and won by 13. Kansas was led by none other than Darren Peterson, who had 22 points. Then Bryson Tiller had 12. Trey White had 10. But outside Darren Peterson, Kansas needs to find consistent scoring. They need to find someone who's going to be there game in, game out, every single game, scoring double digits with Darren Peterson, or it's going to be a rough season for Kansas against good teams. Because if they can't find that consistency with other players in their starting lineup and off their bench of who's going to score double digits with Darren Peterson every single game, you're going to games like this where Darren Peterson gets into some foul trouble maybe, and he's not in the whole game. I mean, he played 28 minutes. So there's 12 minutes where he wasn't on the game, and then in that 12 minutes, Kansas struggled to score the ball. And so there's going to be games where he's not in for 40 minutes. And Kansas is going to need someone else who can score the ball, put the ball on the floor, and take attention from the defense and score. And they got to find that. They've got to get that click in their brain, and they've got to find that little clog that they got in the system and get it out. I think they'll be just fine. I think they'll still be a solid team. Possibility to be a top 25 team. They probably will be a top 25 team all season, maybe, most likely. But, again, they got to find some consistency besides Darren Peterson. Because, again, Flory Badunga, he only had 8 points. And in that first game for him, he had 23. Now, it's a different level of competition, but still, that's just a big difference. And they've got to find that consistency, especially from Flory Badunga, who's their starting big, because he's got to take a step forward this year. That he was behind Hunter Dickinson last year. He could hide back behind Hunter Dickinson last year, even though Hunter Dickinson at moments was not great for him. And there's a reason why Kansas wasn't great last year as a whole. But Flory Badunga's got to take that step forward if you want Kansas to be as good as they possibly can be. North Carolina, though, was led by Caleb Wilson, who had 24 points, 7 rebounds, 4 assists, 4 steals, 1 turnover. And then they were also led by Henry Vesar with 20 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists, 1 block, 4 turnovers. And then Keon Evans had 12 points, 3 assists, 2 rebounds, 2 steals, 2 turnovers. And Seth Trimble had 17 points, 8 rebounds, 3 assists, and 1 turnover. So let's talk about Seth Trimble real quick. Seth Trimble will be out for a little while. He broke a bone in his forearm during a weightlifting accident or malfunction, from what I've heard. So he'll be out for a little bit. He has to get surgery. He will be out for a little bit. So we're not going to talk about Seth Trimble too much when it comes to this North Carolina team. So the question is actually, after this game, who's going to step up with Seth Trimble being out? Who's going to step up from North Carolina and really go to that point guard role? Who's going to step up and who's going to help them in their tough games of the future while they don't have him? But Caleb Wilson, in his first 2 games, has looked phenomenal as a freshman. People were doubting him. While I knew he was good, I didn't know he was this good. He looked phenomenal. He imposed his will against Kansas. He got whatever he wanted when he went. Sometimes it was just him and Darren Pearson going back and forth saying, I got this, I got this, I got this. But Caleb Wilson put North Carolina's back and said, dog, let's go. Let's win. Henry Vassar also had a really good game for North Carolina. Henry Vassar scoring 20 points. Transferring in from Arizona last year, Henry Vassar is really good. For North Carolina to be this good, like they were against Kansas, Henry Vassar's got to play like that a lot. Got to play that same way a lot with that energy, making those crazy lobs, those crazy catches, those crazy shots, those crazy plays. He's got to play like that more consistently and often for North Carolina to be the best they possibly can be. But North Carolina, they look good. Hubert Davis, he may just save his job this year. You might not know. Or he may not. He might do a Hubert Davis thing and all of a sudden his team crashes down, but he may just save his job. And his North Carolina team may be really, really good. Now, another game that we had going on Saturday was Alabama at St. John's. Alabama won 103-96. First of all, before I even talk about players, I never thought I'd see a Rick Pitino St. John's team giving up 103 points in a game. Again, I never thought I'd see a Rick Pitino team in general giving up 103 points in a game. And I know those practices are going to suck before their next game because, man, giving up 103 points, he definitely is not happy. Now, after the game, he gave compliments to Alabama's guards and said about Adine Holloway, the Baron Philon, right? So I'm saying they're really athletic and our players aren't bad, but they just they couldn't keep up with them a little bit. Their guards are a little bit athletic. We're really athletic. It's not even anything bad about our team. Their team is really athletic. And, Alabama's team is really athletic, but their defense has got to tighten up the ship a little bit. Offense wasn't terrible. I mean, they scored 96 points. 96 points is a lot. Now, while their percentages might not have been great as a whole, I mean, they weren't bad. They shot 49% from the field, 35% from three. They only made 6 threes though. They were 6 for 17. And they were 70% from the free throw line. On 40 attempts, they made 28 from the free throw line. Like, their offense wasn't bad. That wasn't the problem. The problem was you gave up 103 points at home. You ain't going to win no game giving up 103 points. Unless you're Ohio State, apparently. Because Ohio State just, in their first game, gave up 100 and something points to their first team. And they said, now we're going to score 100 more. But no, St. John's didn't do that. And their defense struggled at moments. Their offense struggled at moments. At moments, they struggled to have consistent offense. But their defense struggled at moments. But, man, was that a crazy game to kick us off on Saturday. And again, St. John's was led by Zuby Ejiofor, who had 27 points, 10 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals, 2 blocks, 4 turnovers, and 28 minutes. Zuby Ejiofor is a beast. He is showing why he was the preseason player of the year in the Big East and why he's going to most likely be a Big East first-team All-American. He might have a chance to be a national first-team All-American. But Zuby Ejiofor's a beast. Sorry. Then Bryce Hopkins had 19 points, 4 rebounds, 1 assist, 2 turnovers. Good for Bryce Hopkins. I mean, he's dealt with injuries the last 2 seasons, and he has shown again and again he's going to work hard. But he has shown before that he could be good. And it's really nice to see Bryce Hopkins do well. He started out at Kentucky and then went to Providence. Now he's at St. John's. It's nice to see him do well because, again, he struggled through a lot of adversity with injuries and everything. So it's just nice to see Bryce Hopkins do well and, have a good game and show he can still play basketball at a high level. And then they had Isaiah Sellers with 14 points, 7 rebounds, 3 assists, 1 steal. And Ian Jackson with 14 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, 0 steals, 1 block. Again, 96 points, not bad. They got to fix that defense, though. Alabama, they were led by Adine Holloway with 21 points, 2 rebounds, 4 assists, 1 steal, going 2 of 9 from 3. That's not good. His 3-point percentage was not good, but he still played really good. LeBaron Philon had 25 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists, 1 steal. He went 2 of 5 from 3, shooting 40%. His 3-point percentage was good. Taylor Bowen had 17 points, 9 rebounds, 1 assist, 2 steals, 2 blocks, 1 turnover, shooting 50% from 3, 85% from the field. And then Latrell Wrightsell had 17 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists, 4 steals, 0 blocks, 0 turnovers, shooting 4 of 8 from the 3-point line. As a team, they shot 31.4%, going 11 for 35, and they shot 48.1% from the field. and 63.6% from the free throw line. So they struggle a little bit from the free throw line and the three-point line. But they played fast, they played quick, they got up a lot of shots, and they were able to put the ball in the hoop. Dean Holloway, he is crafty, he's fast, he can score at a high clip, same with LeBaron Philon. While Dean Holloway might not have made a lot of threes, he went 2 of 9. I'd maybe dial back how many threes he took because he went 2 for 9, and maybe just drive the paint a little bit more because that's what he's been really good at. He's been good at getting twos, tough twos, and kicking the ball out. But LeBaron Philon had 25 points. LeBaron Philon looked really good, going 2 of 5 from 3. Also, Latrell Wrightsell, who didn't play a lot for Alabama last year due to injury, he played phenomenal against St. John's. And then last, but certainly not least, with college basketball slate on Saturday, you had the rock fight, and that was Michigan State versus Arkansas. John Calipari versus Tom Izzo. 2 Hall of Famers going head-to-head. 2 friends going head-to-head. Michigan State won 69-66. John Calipari's team looked not great offensively or defensively. Well, defensively it looked bad, but Michigan State's offense just is not what it should be. Michigan State's offense, while they won. Don't take credit away from that. Their offense is just not what. They're not a great offense. They don't have a great offense. It's not what you would think to see from just a top program in college basketball like Michigan State. But they've always had solid defense under Tom Izzo. That's the one thing is Michigan State's always had really good defense under Tom Izzo, and they bring you into these rock fights. They bring you into these fights where they're going to bring rocks. They're going to bring rocks. Who's going to win? And it's going to be Michigan State most of the time because they just get down, they get dirty, they do the hard work, they do the hard stuff. And Arkansas couldn't handle that physicality a little bit in that game. They struggled with that physicality that Michigan State brought and showed them and punished them with. But, Arkansas was led by Malik Thomas, who had 16 points, DJ Wagner, who had 13, and Darius Acuff, who had 16. I'll say this. Arkansas is going to be fine. They're going to be a really good team. They've got to figure out that physicality, though. And they've got to figure out their bigs with the physicality specifically because they got bullied a little bit by bigs. Their bigs got bullied a little bit, couldn't do a whole lot. They've got to figure out. I mean, Arkansas had a chance. For one, that final play, I don't know what Cal drew up, but it didn't work out how he wanted because Trevor Brazile ended up with the ball. And Trevor Brazile can shoot threes. But he ended up with the ball deep behind the three-point line with a contested 3, and he airballed the crap out of it. And so he's not the one you want taking that shot late in the game. You want Malik Thomas. But Tom Izzo knew that, and he took away Malik Thomas. He took away Darius Acuff, and they only had Trevor Brazile. And so he had to jack up that shot and throw it, and it did not go in, unfortunately. This is one that Arkansas, they had moments to take over the game, to tie it up or take the lead, and they just didn't. And so, again, this is where Arkansas, they're going to learn a lot from, and Arkansas is still going to be a really good team. Again, Michigan State was led by Cohen Carr and Cam Ward with 18 points for Cam Ward, 15 for Cohen Carr. Cohen Carr is one of the most athletic people in all of college basketball. We obviously know that. He's crazy. He can jump out the roof. He can jump out the gym. But, no, this was a tough rock fight between 2 tough teams led by 2 Hall of Fame coaches. And the home team won. Michigan State was at home. They won. They brought you into their environment. They said, we're going to play the way we want to play, and we're going to escape with the victory. Now, will Michigan State be able to do that next week against Kentucky on a neutral site? I don't know about that because they're not at home. They don't have the crowd of a home environment. But Michigan State's always have tough defense. But it's going to be at a neutral site next week on Tuesday against Kentucky. That's going to be a good game, most likely. And so, what will Arkansas learn from this? We'll find out as the season goes along. You also had Gonzaga beat Oklahoma 83-68. Gonzaga got a good win against Oklahoma. Not going to dive too much in this game because you expected Gonzaga to win that game. But they got a good win against Oklahoma. So, again, today is November 11th, Tuesday, and one electrifying matchup you've got tonight is Kentucky versus Louisville at 8 p.m. at the Yum Center. That's going to be a crazy good game. I can't wait to watch it. I'm a Kentucky fan. I'm rooting for Kentucky. I think Kentucky's going to win. But that's a crazy game. I can't wait to watch it. You also have some other really good games tonight. Let me check. Let me see what games we got going on tonight. You got Kentucky and Louisville. And then you got Florida State and Florida. Today's Veterans Day. You got Duke playing Army at Army. It's Veterans Day. Respect to Duke going to Army to play one of our service teams on Veterans Day. I respect that a lot. Respect to them. Also, again, today's Veterans Day. So thank you to all of our veterans who have served for our country and who are serving for our country, or the people who are in the military now serving for our country. Thank you guys. I respect you guys so much for what you guys do. And you guys are so brave for what you guys do. Thank you guys so much for what you guys do. You also have Texas Tech playing Illinois today. That's going to be a really good game. Illinois dropped 115 points in both of their first 2 games last week. They brought some European basketball to the United States, and boy, does Illinois look good. So is Texas Tech with JT Toppin. And then you have Creighton and Gonzaga. So we're going to find out what Gonzaga is truly made of going against Creighton and not Oklahoma. I expect Gonzaga to win that game also. But those are all of our really good games today on Veterans Day, November 11th, Tuesday. That was Game Talk 24/7. Catch you guys later.